We go from that to the Ascension versus 2 local competitors. You guys can imagine how this ended. The Ascension really just destroyed these guys. At one point, they got a really sick-looking spot where they tossed one of the guys way up in the air and sent him crashing down.
And he landed on his chest. Oh, my God, that would hurt.
Yeah, the rotation in midair and then like right on the chest. It was a great spot.
Pretty sure that spot was intended to be a back bump, but the guy like wussed out at the last second and rotated himself in midair, and then he crashed down to the canvas, and he was like, oh God, that was way worse.
Exactly. They hit the Fallen Man for the win. Apparently, and I missed this. I guess I must have had my own tuning out, Ashton, because apparently there was a sidebar of the Ascension saying they're better than the Powers of Pain.
How could you miss it? They were screaming at you in the TV.
Yeah, I must have tuned out. I don't know. I missed it.
Went, we are better than Demolition. We are better than the Powers of Pain. And we are better than the Road Warriors.
God, I miss NXT Ascension where they never had to talk about it. They just swore about it.
I don't understand. Like, what about the Ascension on NXT made one or more WWE writers and or Vince McMahon look at it and go, you know what these guys need? Some shoulder pads.
That also, you make it sound so awful. Like, you know what these guys need? To be ruined. Yeah, we're gonna figure something out.
And if the shoulder pads aren't enough, some face paint will surely do the trick. And if that all doesn't get the job done, let's have them cut promos comparing themselves to legends. And the icing on the cake, while all this is happening, we'll have commentary bury them.
Yeah.
My friend, is the formula for getting a tag team over on the WWE.
Look, I'm not saying that you and I could do any better, that anybody can do any better, but when you give them this,
John, I am saying right now, you or I or my mom or my 15-year-old cousin or my not even a year-old cat could do a better job of making the Ascension look legitimate than the WWE is doing right now.
I just, I said it, and I think I even mentioned this, so again, I don't want to dwell too much on it, but I said on Puitov, I think last week in the thread, anybody who loves an NXT gimmick, and I know there's this whole debate going on right now, does the main roster ruin NXT gimmicks, doesn't it, whatever. I mean, obviously we're of the opinion that yes, in fact they do. But if you're a fan of NXT gimmick, cherish them, please. Because I think really seeing the Ascension, it's crystallized for me, just maybe the fact that we're living on borrowed time with these guys being as amazing as they are. I know you and I kind of romanticize the day that Finn Balor has his WrestleMania debut, and I'm sure it'll be amazing. But I swear, if they screw him up, it's going to be something bad. Because I look at the Ascension, again, like Roman Reigns when we were talking about it earlier, it's not that hard. These guys have a look and a presence that if you just sick them on people and have the appropriate parties, I'm looking at you, JBL.
Yeah, dude, that's my thing, because they don't need to cut a promo. If they could have literally not cut a single promo between debuting and now. They could have not spoken a word beyond just Connor's yah in the corner. And commentary should have been able to get them over as a legitimate heel tag team who are unstoppable and dominant by now. But they insist, and honestly, I almost feel like it would have been better if they hadn't cut promos, because them cutting promos seems to have enraged JBL to the point that he's dead set on making them look like garbage every week.
Not only has it enraged JBL, which, I want to punch you in the face when you go on your Ascension crap, but I was against it because I think it takes away from the mystique that these guys have as a team. I wouldn't have had them cut promos.
Though? That's the thing. They don't need mystique in order to get over. Look at NXT. They had cut promos prior to getting over on NXT, and they continued to cut promos while they were over on NXT, and it didn't make them any less over. If anything, the playing up of the Yah chants on NXT made them more over.
And you certainly have a point. I think what I should have said what I should have said. I didn't really like the content of their promo.
Exactly. Well, that's kind of my point.
Right. It's just, to me, I don't really think that's what they're about. First of all, I don't think it's authentic at all. I think that was one problem I had. It just comes off as a little bit fake to me. And then second of all, I mean, to your point, it enraged JBL, who could be a great service to this team, but again, chooses not to be, as we established in the
Can I just say,
segment.
though, I love that all of these current and former wrestlers have come out of the woodwork to let everyone know how displeased they are that the Ascension are cutting promos dissing the Road Warriors.
Right.
They're actually blaming the Ascension for cutting promos that are written for them by other people.
Yeah.
The workers are literally getting worked. And that list includes JBL, who has allowed himself to get so overly worked that he has some kind of personal grudge against the Ascension and insists on burying them week after week. And now it's gotten to the point that the WWE needs to have both of the other two commentators who are supposed to be baby faces stand up for the Ascension to make up for JBL being an absolute moron.
I hate it. And you know what? I almost wish that Booker T was the heel, because him putting over the Ascension would actually be worth something, because people note Booker T's tag team history.
Yeah.
The same way, JBL should be able to do it because APA! Freaking APA!
Yeah, I was literally, I was reading, someone on Reddit said it, and I agreed. The only way, to me, that this is acceptable is if they're building up to an Ascension versus APA match at WrestleMania. That's it.
Honestly, I didn't even think about that. I'd be for it. Hell, have them beat the respect into JBL.
Exactly. But you know what? That's the crappy thing, is that they could beat the APA at WrestleMania, and JBL would come on the next night. Well, yeah, of course they beat us, Mago. We've been retired for almost 10 years.
Or he would finally heal it up a little bit, but not to give the Ascension respect. He'd be like, well, of course they beat us. I mean, have you seen Ron Simmons lately? And he put the onus on his partner there.
Yeah.
JBL.
And then Cole would be like, but John, they pinned you. And then he could be like, well, yeah, because I was in a handicap match against them.
Oh, God. We loathe.
By the way, can I just say, I love, and this is completely irrelevant to what we're talking about right now, but I love that Brock Lesnar now has the haircut of a Lego man.
Yeah. That's interesting as well. And Brock's just, I don't know, got a weird look going on. But speaking of things getting weird, we go from that to backstage. We go back to Ambrose and the Doctor, and the roles have been reversed. The Doctor is sitting on the couch, just broken down in tears.
I loved this segment. You want to know why? Because it was an old throwback to FCW.
Yeah, you were saying that. Now, what did the FCW segment consist of?
Maxine at the time, now known as Katrina in Lucha Underground, real name Carly Perez, was the acting general manager of FCW. And she decided that the entire FCW roster had to get psychiatric evaluations from James Bronson, who was debuting with a psychologist gimmick, which played into the idea that he was this psychological, I guess you could go as far as to say a surgeon in the ring, because he was this submission expert and he knew ways to contort the body that shouldn't be able to happen. But Ambrose was a patient of his, and by the end of Ambrose's session, he was one sitting there with the notepad and paper, and Bronson was laying on the couch crying, just like this. And it actually ended up leading into a feud between the two, where they ended up having a submission match, and that led to William Regal walking out on the match and Ambrose winning with the Regal stretch, and then coming to the back and cutting that amazing promo about how Regal ripped his heart out, stomped on his heart tonight, and so he was going to rip his heart out and throw it right up against the wall and all that. And it was just incredible material, but it all comes back to the psychological test where the roles ended up getting switched by the end of it because Dean Ambrose is just that much of an amazing psychological manipulator.
Absolutely, and we see the same thing here. Pretty much tells the doctor that everything's going to be okay, and just sign these papers so that we can get you the help that you need. The doctor does. He just seems so grateful. Everyone's like, "Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you." And kudos to the doctor. He did get a good laugh out of me here. Portrayed so well. I'll be curious to find out who portrayed the doctor. I'm sure a report will come out later. And Ambrose tells him to hang in there. Once the papers are signed, Ambrose insults the doctor. Pretty much says that you are absolutely weird. And he says, yes, it is weird that you sit down to pee. And the doctor is just beside himself, and Ambrose walks off. So
I love this. Like, the fact that Ambrose just played along long enough to get the paper signed and then immediately insulted the doctor, and the whole, yes, it's weird that you sit down to pee, and that just, it's very kind of like schoolroom humor, like it's like backyard trash humor, like right. You sit down to pee, like that kind of stuff. But Ambrose pulls it off.
Yeah, he really does. I think his delivery is just so on point. He's got that charisma that, no matter how much you try and fight against it, it's always going to shine through.
There are very few people in the WWE that I would say are borderline not even corruptible. And when I say corruptible, I mean like what they've done to the Ascension. Like they've basically ruined them, and Adam Rose and that kind of stuff. And Ambrose is one of the few. And I honestly, dude, I actually wanted to bring this up earlier. I think Finn Balor might be in that group.
I hope you're right, dude. And I
don't care if they try and stick him with a freaking Mighty Mouse gimmick. I don't care if they try and stick him with a generic Irish step dancer or river dancer or whatever kind of gimmick. Like, he's so good. I don't think that it's possible for him to fail at this. And quite frankly, even if he does fail at the WWE, if he goes back to New Japan, he'll be just fine for the rest of his life.
Hell, I mean, you and I are branching out. It won't be any big loss for us. So,
Exactly.
Yeah. We go from that to Lana and Rusev come out very quickly. Lana does cut a pretty decent promo here, pretty much going after Ryback, thanking the Authority for firing him. Says it, and she also thanks John Cena for failing to get Ryback's job back. And then she says, typical Americans, you get employed, but you can't even, keep your own work. And I like Rusev here, though, because he then takes the mic and he says Ryback is spineless and deserves to be fired. And I think he pretty much says he would have thrown him over the top rope if he was still here anyway, and he would have beat him down. So
can I just say, though, I love Rusev's promo style. I know I've said this before, but he actually had longer and more sort of articulate sentences here, and it still worked out for him really, really well. Like, I honestly love that they're using him as this top mega heel. But if he ever decides to pull a Kofi Kingston and lose the accent entirely, I think he'll be really good on the mic.
You know what? I could believe that, dude. Absolutely. Rusev, to me, and I just got to take a second to praise him here because I think he has really exceeded my expectations. And I'm talking from like when he first came into NXT.
Yep.
And just like he has grown into such a performer that any worries we had about him, because I remember the earliest worry was, well, John, we got to take advantage of him while we have him because, guys like this usually burn out. I'm not so sure about that anymore. Like, I still keep it in the back of my mind as a possibility, but I think he's so good. And here's the thing, too, and this is also kind of tragic, but it does work to Rusev's benefit. That pro-American sentiment and dare I say even xenophobia is still so strong in 2015. Rusev can ride that wave presumably till the end of his career, and he's certainly riding it right now. I just think that all the elements are together for Rusev to just really have another standout year. And but he does get interrupted by Dean Ambrose. Ambrose gets a nice pop. They go into the ring, they brawl. Ambrose does get the upper hand, and he drop kicks Rusev to the floor. Rusev throws a fit, and we go to commercial.
Wait. I just want to say,
yeah,
how great is it that Rusev stood his ground when Ambrose showed up?
Yeah.
Even the Big Show, who earlier on in the night was bragging about how he can do whatever he wants because he's a giant, when Roman Reigns showed up, the Big Show backed down. he walked up the ramp and he had this big smile on his face like, oh, you're not going to get this on your time. You're going to do it on my time. Rusev comes out exclusively for the purpose of cutting a promo with Lana. And next thing you know, Dean Ambrose shows up and Rusev says, oh, well, I mean, I didn't plan on fighting tonight, but sure, let's do this.
Yeah, man. He is so legitimate. I love it. I absolutely love it. I'm going to say it, dude. I think he's probably one of the most legitimate heels. I mean, yeah, you could say Brock Lesnar, but even Brock Lesnar is backpedaled at times. I feel like Rusev's one of the most legitimate heels to come our way in a long time. Long time. Love how he takes care of business. We then go into our Ambrose-Rusev matchup, which I'm not going to spend too much time on here, Ashton, because you and I kind of talked about it earlier.
Before we actually get into it, can I just say Mark Henry?
Yeah, Mark Henry, I think, would fit that mold, sure. Yeah,
specifically Hall of Pain Mark Henry?
Yeah, Hall of Pain World Champion Mark Henry, I think would be the last time that I've really been as impressed with a heel as I am with Rusev. He is something special. I'm loving how they're treating him, and I really hope. See, because here's my thing. My concern with Rusev comes in the aftermath of his first loss. Because normally when big locomotives like that, lose their first match, then it's kind of a slippery slope. I hope even when Rusev loses, that they find that sweet spot where he can still maintain that dominance. Because just because he loses doesn't mean you have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. You can still have a monster. So I hope WWE knows that. But I won't stay too long on this match because you and I already did kind of talk about it earlier. They did a nice back and forth. I think Ambrose and Rusev have some pretty solid chemistry. Did some good stuff here. Ambrose got his rebound lariat at one point, my favorite move in his arsenal. So, it was a good stuff. But Ambrose tweaked his knee, I guess, at one point. I don't know what it was the elbow drop. He comes off with an elbow drop and he's selling the knee. And it gets so bad that the referee throws the match out, and Dean is just begging him not to do it. And when he does it, he kind of just grabs the referee and he's like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" I could have continued. And Rusev super kicks Ambrose in the face. So even when Ambrose has a good night, like he did with the therapist and averting the authority schemes, he still ends up on the receiving end of something. Dean can never catch a break, man.